Welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. The mindset that we bring to any situation plays a key part in overcoming challenges and really enjoying our unique paths in life. On Thoughtful Thursdays, I like to explore emotional topics that are relevant to CRNAs and other providers. I think of this as my therapy, and I hope you learn some tips and tricks that you can use along your own journey. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now on with the show. Welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays on the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones. And before we get started, I have to tell you about our current offering, the Verdier at Herman Park Apartments in the heart of Houston, Texas. This is our third partnership with QC Capital, and each investment has performed at or above expectations so far, with our first offering selling in just 20 months. A Class A asset with spacious 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments and convenient access to major employers like Texas Medical Center, the Verdier has annualized returns projected at 15% or more and an equity multiple above 1.6 over a short 4-year period. Now, if you're interested in this investment opportunity, make sure you reach out to me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com today. Now, as always, I do like to start these episodes off with a quote that gets me thinking. Robert Kiyosaki once said, "Successful people don't fear failure, but understand that it's necessary to learn and grow from." I've actually been thinking a lot about failure lately. I recently attended my first PodFest, which is a conference of podcasters from all walks of life. And for the first 3 hours on the first day, various podcasters participate in pechakucha, which means the sound of conversation or chit-chat in Japanese. Presenters are given 5 minutes each to talk about whatever it is they want to highlight, whether that's their own show, a charity, or a particular topic that they happen to specialize in. This equates to 12 presentations per hour or 36 different podcasters that you meet in rapid-fire succession. One of the presenters was Ben Courier, the self-proclaimed world's #1 failure. Why does he say this about himself? Well, Ben has had 6 different jobs in his career, and he was fired from each and every one of them. Now he's the host of the Failure Guy podcast, a show where his guests discuss the hardest moments that they've endured on their way to success. He's had successful authors, CEOs, comedians, and various personalities such as Carol Baskin and William Hung on the program to discuss their different failures. Now, during Ben's 5-minute talk, he discussed how his mind has switched from a fake it till you make it attitude to that of a fail it till you nail it one. I mean, this failure is not necessarily a bad thing, and we shouldn't take that on as part of our identity. In fact, failure is a necessary part of life. When you lean into that, you can accomplish great things because you are no longer operating out of fear. I can tell you firsthand that this is not an easy thing to do. I remember being in a 6th grade history class, and the teacher asked us where Christopher Columbus thought he landed when he reached the Bahamas. I raised my hand with all of the confidence in the world and answered, "China." One of my friends/rivals in the class burst into laughter and replied, "Why in the world do you think he called them Indians?" And I was completely embarrassed. Now, India wasn't the answer either. Our teacher calmly explained that he thought he had reached the Indies, which we know today as Indonesia, and that's why Columbus called them Indians. But that embarrassment stuck with me for years. I was much less eager to stick my hand in the air to answer questions in school. I had trouble trusting myself or my so-called knowledge. This is when I began to fake it till you make it, keeping my doubts inside and wearing a confident mask. I would only speak out once I was absolutely sure I knew what I was talking about. It was an excuse to pretend and not be vulnerable to others about my own knowledge gaps. But I was missing out on the incredible life lessons that failure has to offer. I shied away from challenges, changing majors several times until I found something that was more comfortable. Eventually, I broke free of this somewhere in my late 30s as I began to listen to podcasts and appreciate the success that others from different walks of life were having. I began to use the lessons of others to change my mindset around failure. So why is failure such a valuable teacher? There are a few reasons. Failure can help us identify areas where we need to improve or develop new skills. The Wright brothers tested between 100 to 200 different wing designs in their wind tunnel, gathering information from each experiment that helped them inch closer to a functional model. And as we all know, they eventually found the success they were after. Failure can also help us to build resilience and perseverance as we learn to pick ourselves up and keep going after a setback. Babies don't learn to walk without falling down. It's in our nature to actually try new things and endure obstacles until we find what works. Failure can also teach us to take calculated risks. Anytime we take a risk and it doesn't work out, we can use that knowledge to make better decisions in the future. Did you spend 4 years in college and rack up $200,000 in debt to come out with no job prospects? I'm sure that will color how you educate your own children about choosing a major. Did you put a bunch of money into cryptocurrency only to see their worth drop by 70% or more? You'll probably take a closer look at your portfolio diversification to make sure that you're no longer overexposed. And this is great and all, but if I'm being honest, failure just isn't very fun. I mean, it can be emotional and painful at times. You can lose money or alter relationships. This is where your risk-reward ratio will begin to get fine-tuned to what you're comfortable with. But you can't do this without pushing a few boundaries. So how can you embrace and learn from your own failures? Here are a few tips. Number 1, embrace a growth mindset. When we have a growth mindset, we see failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. We believe that we can improve and develop new skills even if we don't succeed the first time. I love Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, because she really explores the differences between the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, challenging us to embrace the concept of failing forward. Number 2, reflect on the experience. When you experience failure, take some time to reflect on what went wrong and what you could have done differently. This knowledge can help you to make better decisions in the future. I've injured myself a few times training for different races, and each time it's something a little different. My body is changing as I get older, and I have to learn to listen to my body and adjust my training plans accordingly. So, number 3, keep a positive attitude. It's easy to get down on ourselves when we fail, but it's important to maintain a positive attitude. We have to remind ourselves that failure is a natural part of the learning process and that we can use the experience to grow and improve. This is where a support network can really come in handy because they can provide you with that encouragement to carry on despite the obstacles that you face. Now, I wasted a lot of time in my life avoiding failure due to my own misconceptions about it. I thought that when I failed, it meant that I simply wasn't good enough. While that may be the case in any particular endeavor, I used that as a validation of my inadequacies instead of encouragement to overcome those inadequacies. But I hope that today's conversation helps you to reframe your own experiences with failure and put it in a more positive light. You too can fail it until you nail it. That's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you check out the show notes for helpful links. And if you enjoyed what you heard, make sure you hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. I'd love to hear what you thought of the show. Now, if you're interested in passive income opportunities with tax advantage real estate, visit my website at www.oncallinvestments.com or reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Until next time, stay safe and take care of each other out there. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by On-Call Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find On-Call Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.